American history still calls it a race riot, but it wasn't. It was an absolute massacre by a white mob intent on killing blacks. Those were the paraphrased words of General Philip Sheridan, describing what happened in New Orleans on July 30th, 1866. This was no riot. This was an organized slaughter of human beings. Just 1 year after the Civil War, New Orleans became the site of one of the bloodiest acts of post-war racial violence in America. The immediate cause? A group of mostly black Union veterans and white radical Republicans met at the Mechanics' Institute to reconvene Louisiana's 1864 Constitutional Convention to demand voting rights for black men. But in a city crawling with ex-Confederates, white police, and Southern loyalists, the idea of black suffrage was seen as an act of rebellion. As the delegates marched toward the Mechanics' Institute, they were met with mobs of armed white citizens. Many former Confederates, many still in uniform. The crowd hurled racial slurs, and then gunfire erupted. What followed wasn't chaos, it was coordination. White policemen joined the mobs, surrounding the building and firing into the crowd inside. Black Union veterans and white delegates tried to defend themselves. But even when they raised a white flag, even when they surrendered, the killing didn't stop. Major General A. Baird reported that the police, aided by citizens, became the assailants. He described how surrendering men were beaten, shot, and stabbed where they fell. Governor Michael Hahn was shot in the mouth. Dr. A.P. Dosty clubbed and left bleeding in the street. And scores of unarmed black citizens gunned down in cold blood. Federal troops arrived late in the day. By then, the streets of New Orleans were slick with blood. When General Sheridan returned from Texas, what he found sickened him. He wrote, "The more information I obtain about the affair of the 30th, the more revolting it becomes. It was not a riot. It was an absolute massacre by the police." Sheridan demanded that Mayor John T. Monroe be removed, writing that, "The surety of life and property does not rest with the civil authority, but with the military." According to data compiled by the U.S. Congress Select Committee on the New Orleans riots, 38 to over 140 black men and women were killed or wounded, compared to only a few white casualties. This figure may have been sanitized as a political tactic to minimize national outrage. General Sheridan reported to Ulysses S. Grant that the number of killed and wounded was much higher than reported by the local authorities. Many of them Union veterans, compared to only a few white casualties. The New Orleans Massacre shocked the nation. It exposed the violence that lurked beneath Reconstruction, the truth that white supremacy had not been defeated, only wounded. In the North, outrage over the massacre helped radical Republicans seize control of Congress. From that outrage came the Reconstruction Acts of 1867 and eventually the 14th Amendment, guaranteeing equal protection under the law. But for the victims of July 30th, 1866, there was no justice. No one was ever arrested. No one was ever tried. And no one was ever punished. The New Orleans Massacre wasn't about politics. It was about power. It was a warning to every newly freed black citizen who dared to dream of equality. Freedom may be written in the law, but we still hold the gun. To learn more, read Dixieland, Tales, Stories, and Anecdotes of Unfiltered Black American History, available at Amazon.com.